Hey there, everybody. I am here to explain my end of 2025 in gaming. Uh, so, I'm going to release a document. The link will be in the description of this video and probably any other videos that reference it. I have created a gaming log spreadsheet inspired by another YouTuber. I'll also put a link to that first video in their series in the description, talking about them basically documenting their gaming backlog. I was inspired by that and decided to make one of my own. I believe that at this point the list is over 350 games long and goes back to even my childhood, and talks about some of the games that I played back then and my nostalgia tinged thoughts about them. But I wanted to highlight what I played this year, and then eventually I'll probably make another video talking about what I plan on playing next year. This is my first attempt at a gaming related video since back when I did Minecraft Let's Play videos. I think those videos I think have been taken off just because I find them kind of cringe. But I did do some of those back then. But I've kind of wanted to do some video game analysis for quite a long time at this point. So just consider this my first attempt at that. Feel free to give me some grace since I'm not super good at doing this. I'm learning how to do it. So yeah, with that caveat, I'll go ahead and get started. I believe that the first game that I played in 2025 was the Talos Principle Road to Gehenna, which is a expansion slash DLC off of the original Talos Principle, which I believe I played in either 2024 or 2023. It is, people compare it to Portal a lot, but I would call it a kind of similar to that in that it's more focused on, I'd say, both the puzzles themselves and the philosophy heavy storyline, which I think is really cool in all of the Talos Principle games. Road to Gehenna's puzzles are a lot harder than the base game from what I remember. They were still a ton of fun to play and figure out. I do think I had to look at a guide for 2 or 3 of those puzzles. One of them physically I remember in my head, but I don't remember the name of the puzzle. Again, you can go to this document and there is a thoughts section. I think it's all the way to the right, and it just has a few brief sentences, usually about what I think about the game and some other stuff that's related, like context around the game. But I do remember playing and enjoying that. It looks like I put 12 hours into it over a couple of weeks. That was probably in the beginning. I played the Steam version. I believe I played the original game on Switch, which I did not realize that the Crow team, the developers, did such a good job of making it look graphically amazing on PC. And the Switch version has, it's running on a Switch, so it's not as graphically impressive. But I believe I played the DLC on a PC, and that was the first time I was like, wow, the graphics are great. And after that, I then played the Talos Principle 2, which is the sequel to the first game. I put 31 hours into that. I do not believe I did all of the golden puzzles, but I did do some of the extra puzzles. And near the beginning, I was like, I'm going to try to get every single, solve every single puzzle in each area. But then eventually I was like, okay, I got to move on to something else. So I may eventually go back and complete that game. It is amazing looking. The story at first, I was like, oh, I kind of don't like, I enjoy the isolated feeling of the first game. But then I grew to really enjoy some of the characters or robots in the game, and I'd say the story overall is still really, really good, and definitely worth paying attention to, including all of the voice recordings and other things that you find that aren't animated fully. All the voice recordings, that stuff was also super cool. I spent what looks like 4 months doing that, and I think the reason why that was the case was because I actually had bought the Lexus LS 400 that I've made a video or two on now at this point in March. And I think that put a hold on like gaming for a little bit because I was focused on getting that car up to a spec where I felt comfortable commuting in it. Thankfully, I'm not commuting super far in it at this point. And speaking of which, it's actually up on jack stands now, getting some new engine mounts. So look forward to more car videos in the future. But really great game, super graphically impressive. Even running on my computer, which is now I think 5 years old, almost 6 years old at this point. And I put 31 really enjoyable hours into that, so highly recommend those, or that series of games. Up next, I think I actually started Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which I'm a big Xenoblade fan. I played 2 first, but it was pretty, like a few years after release. It was actually around when the 2019 government shutdown happened. So in that way, that event sort of allowed for me to focus on the game a little bit more, and I ended up, really enjoying Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I then played Definitive Edition, but I feel like I did spend way too long on it because I had some gaming breaks, few and far between. I think I spent almost a year finishing that game, so I definitely want to go back and like play the first Xenoblade Chronicles, but in a less spread out way, kind of get through it a little more quickly so that I can kind of get a more, a better look at the story than I did. And then I played 3. I then played, I had tried Torna before I played the first game, but I did not finish it. I should go back and finish it. Probably after doing it the way a lot of people recommend playing the second game, which is going through the first 7 chapters or stopping at chapter 7 and then playing the DLC. So that's something I also want to do in the future. But X is a really fun game. I agree with general opinion. The story is not as amazing as the other games are. I would say the DLC does add quite a bit though, and I feel like I enjoyed the story adds that it did. It kind of ties that world in a way that's pretty interesting. So I would definitely pay attention to that. But as far as like being able, if you like the more grindy elements of RPGs, I would say that X does that best. Same with world exploration, which I've really enjoyed in the Xenoblade Chronicles series in general. So playing X was really fun that way. The world they've created is insane, and I actually also have the Wii U release, so I've considered booting that up and just seeing how it compares to this version. But I spent 120 hours over what looks like almost 4 other months playing that. And that's the way I kind of work with games. I try to just finish what I start, and I've been trying to do better. I feel like my goal this year that I achieved was not playing games as quickly or feeling like I have to schedule time every single day to play a game, where it's more like now I can take a break for a day or two to do something else and I'm not beating myself up for it. So I'd say that's the way I definitely approached this year. As I went back and looked, I was like, what have I played this year? And it's actually not a ton. For someone that pretty much plays a couple hours a night and not every night, I'm looking at somewhere in between 200 and 300 hours a year that I spend playing games. So I do have to kind of pick what I'm going to play with a lot of care. And it doesn't help that I really tend to like games that are pretty long. So this is the prime example. And the game I spent the most time playing was X Definitive. So look at the notes for that. Another great entry in that series. After that, I believe, was Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye. I played the original game last year, and maybe I should just do videos for prior years. That'd be kind of a fun experiment. but I really liked the base game. Outer Wilds is in my top 10 games of all time, a thing that I should probably talk about later. I feel like I have that list pretty solidified at this point. That's not to say that something will come along and wow me so much that it will jump its way into the top 10. And I think one of these games might actually do that for me if I go back and maybe replay it. But Echoes of the Eye is great. I would say it's a lot harder than the base game just because of the not necessarily the horror elements making it harder, but the parts where you have to do some maneuvering around enemies. I actually ended up beating this game using a multiplayer mod on PC, and I don't know whether I'd even be capable of beating this single player. But still, I was so excited to finish it, or after I had finished it, that I literally made my partner at least start it, and then I kind of played it through for them after the fact. And the way you unravel the story is super cool. I would say that it's potentially even better than the base game at doing that. The reading part, I think, is very special to the base game. But the way they use slides and help you kind of do most of the interpretation manually versus just looking at words, sometimes it feels a little more indirect, which I sort of think can be an upside depending on how you're trying to enjoy a certain game. So I put 21 hours into that. I spent a month on it, and it was a great time. Then after that, I believe Donkey Kong Bonanza came out. I was really excited about that. I had been looking forward to it since I had played Mario Odyssey back in 2017 when that came out. I'm a big 3D Mario fan. Matter of fact, one of those games in that series is in my top 10, so that's a thing I'll be talking about eventually. But I put 67 hours into it over almost 2 months. I really think it might even topple Mario Odyssey from like an overall experience. But I think I need more time with it before I actually make that decision. But I finished the game. I did not get all of the fossils. There were so many. I did, however, I think get all of the bananas that were not directly linked to getting fossils. So it's such a satisfying game to play. Also, a really cool looking game and a very unique experience too. I don't think I've played anything quite like it. Then let's go to single player stuff, or wrap out the single player stuff, and then I can mention multiplayer briefly. So after Bonanza, I believe I actually went back to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive and finished it. Then when I was done with that, I moved on. Thankfully, I'd actually finished that right before Metroid Prime 4 Beyond came out. Been a Metroid Prime fan since the first game. I do think the second and third games were already out by the time I had played the first game. I actually watched my sibling play it first. And even just watching it, it feels like you're playing a movie. It's gorgeous. But it's not just gorgeous, it's also a very good game. I know backtracking can kind of bother some people, but I do think just the way it feels to move around in that game and how satisfying it is to take in the environments and all the creatures and all of the lore that's involved when you're scanning and reading kind of what's going on in the story makes it feel like a very immersive world. And I do think Prime 4 has most of that. I'd say I agree in general. I'm not fully done with the game yet at this point. I do think I just have a couple more things to wrap up before I'm done with it. But to give my preliminary thoughts on the game, I would say that it really does have the Metroid Prime vibe that the rest of the series does. The music is really, really good. It may even be the best music out of any of the Metroid Prime games so far. At first I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about the characters. And I felt the same with Prime 3. I actually don't think I finished that game. Um, but it may have also been because something else came out and then I got distracted. I want to go back and play Prime Remastered. I picked it up when it came out of excitement, but never got to fully finish it. So I'm actually going to go back and play it, I think, uh, just to see how it holds up to this game. But I still think that as far as like the environment and world that the game has, it's still super good. The one thing I'm really curious about when I do go back and play the first game is like how do the environments feel? Because I feel like the game Prime 4 really only has a few larger environments, and I feel like they're a lot more linear than the first game was. I feel like the first game had a lot more maze like environments, but it's been a while since I've played it, so I need to go back and take a look at that. Um, I actually think I'll save the multiplayer stuff for another time. But those are pretty much the games that I am playing right now, or have played over the past calendar year. I think the next game I'm working on is I'm a few hours into Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I have not played a Pokemon game since Pokemon Moon, and I've heard the Ultra games are a big improvement over those base games, so that's something I've also been curious about for a while, but have not been able to get to. It's mainly because my kids are really into Pokemon now, and I'm using it as an excuse for me to kind of get back into the series. So Eevee's been really fun so far. The control scheme's a little weird with you having to use one Joy-Con. I have qualms with any game that really forces the one Joy-Con control scheme, even the Mario Party and Clubhouse games as examples. But the game itself is really good, and I never played Red and Blue back in the day. I played a little bit of Fire Red, I think, but I never finished it. So that's something I'm really looking forward to doing. And then once I'm done with that, I think I'm going to move on to Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. I was a Fire Emblem kid when I was younger. I played Fire Emblem 7, aka the Blazing Blade, on GBA back near when it came out from a friend, and then ended up getting my own copy later. But I never got to play the Advance Wars game, but just saw my friends in elementary school playing it. So I'm looking forward to playing these remakes and seeing how they are. But I think that's all I've got for now. If you want to see more gaming videos, let me know. I've got plenty more to talk about, as you can see with the spreadsheet. It's over 350 games long. So if there's anything in particular that you want me to kind of talk about a little more, let me know in the comments, and I will see y'all in future videos. Bye-bye.